How do you get strangers on the internet to buy into your low ticket tier? That's sales. How do you move those same people from your low ticket tier to your high ticket tier? That's customer success. Sales is just being a therapist, understanding the pain of the person you're talking to and being like, I have the solution for a pain. Let's forget the name customer success for a second. The idea is, how do you keep customers for longer or get them to buy more things? How do you upsell or get them to buy more expensive things? How do you get your customers to tell more of their friends? How do you get your customers to leave more reviews? All of those things apply, in my opinion, to all businesses. I was a management consultant at Deloitte, helping corporates figure out their marketing. Big businesses, like, should we launch an investment bank in Brazil? What customers do we target? What channels do we focus on? So I was in boardrooms helping them figure that stuff out. And at the same time, my friends would call me and say, hey, can you help this entrepreneur? Can you help this small business? They need help with their strategy too. Started helping nights and weekends, helping small businesses with their marketing plans, how to run their business more effectively, all the same stuff we were doing for the big guys. Realized how valuable that was. There was one moment specifically where I had one business owner who put his whole life savings into his business. And I gave him a tip that honestly, I thought was pretty standard for us. And he cried. That hasn't happened to me again since. But it just made me realize that with big businesses, it's not as emotional. It's more of a logical thing. With small businesses, it's the person's livelihood.
It's all emotion, man.
It's all emotion. And so I really want to start helping people. I started talking about all the frameworks we were doing in consulting on Twitter. And that started taking off. Fast forward about a year of writing on Twitter. I built the audience. Now I have, I think you mentioned 87,000 followers, just all following along for how to run my business more effectively, how to grow my business. But a bunch of my followers were asking for marketing help, strategy help. So I started advising businesses and did that while traveling the world and working from Asia, Latin America, etc.
It's such a cool story. So we're not going to do a deep dive on talent today like we did in our last episode, but more specifically, making more money from your current customer. We're going to talk about things like the pillars of retention, referrals, renewals, getting positive reviews, developing customer service managers. Let's kick it off with the importance and the science behind making more money from your current customer, because it's way cheaper to make more money from those who already know, like, and trust and pay you, as opposed to sourcing new business.
Absolutely. So a backstory on this started really in SaaS 20 years ago, when Salesforce was looking at a customer base and, hey, half our customers are leaving us. What the heck? And so because of that, they started the customer success role. And that customer success role, the point of customer success is to proactively reach out to your customers and figure out, what do you need? How can I help you more? Most customer success roles, a lot of them fall in SaaS, but since they discovered it, it's expanded to agencies like e-com, etc. And when I say expanded, I don't mean the customer success role exactly, but different flavors of it. In agencies, we think of it as the account manager, where the account manager's role is to have a strong client relationship. And I mean, for us, we have KPIs around what's the upsell? How are we doing on upsells? How are we doing on retention? Which is all metrics coming from the customer success role in SaaS 20 years ago.
Let's dive on that one, because actually I misstated. It's customer success manager, not customer service, although I guess you can look at them one and the same, might be semantics. But what is the point of this role? I'm sure people, just as general consumers, have noticed that they deal with a customer success or a customer service rep, but it's, like you said, it's gotten way more proactive. So what's been the evolution for that position? And then we can talk a little bit about how you guys help hire for that. But what was the impetus for that?
Yeah, and maybe like just a quick distinction, customer service versus customer success. The standard customer service role is, imagine you're buying like computer mice, right? And you have a problem with it. You call a service line and go, hey, my shipment didn't arrive. It's like a logistical
More like
challenge.
technical problems or logistical problems.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Or in SaaS, you're like, I have a problem. I don't know, Go High Level is our CRM. You call Go High Level and you're like, hey, I can't get into this thing. This isn't working, blah, blah, blah. That's customer support, customer service. Customer success is different. So you may get, usually let's go with SaaS, an example, and then we can switch to agencies. In SaaS, you may get like a representative. They go, hey, Brien, welcome to, I don't know, TalentHQ SaaS company. And you get introduced to someone who's going to be your point person. Their job is to make sure that you fully understand the value of the service. Their job is to understand your needs so they can suggest other solutions for your problems. And so they're going to build more loyalty, but more importantly, they're going to build more upsells, get reviews, keep you longer, etc. And so one big use case we're seeing a lot of right now, which is where a lot of our sales are coming from, which surprised me at first, is actually communities. So in the
Oh yeah.
creator space, you have a ton of people coming in, like creating all these school communities, Discord communities, whatever. WAP now, right? And
Yeah.
Circle, yeah. And so what a
Yeah.
bunch of people do is they'll have a free community to a paid community, or a low ticket community to a high ticket community. And so the job of customer success in that function is to take the low paid tier or the free tier, and how do you move as many people as you can to the paid tier? And so that's two different sales motions, where the first one is how do you get strangers on the internet to buy into your low ticket tier? That's sales. How do you move those same people from your low ticket tier to your high ticket tier? That's customer success.
Oh, that's perfect. That's an excellent distinction. I'm glad you brought it up for online communities because as someone who's been a part and is in many online communities, that is the ones who are ran the best. They have a fantastic customer success manager, or whether they're called community manager, whatever that role is. Their job is so important because it's making sure that the people who are in whatever level of the community are engaged, doing what they need to be doing, getting what they need to be getting, engaging, or I guess being aware of everything that the community offers. But then also having that person who can identify, for lack of a better term, we'll say the A players who might be better suited by the high ticket.
Yeah.
And it's their job to take them from level 1 to level 2 and encourage them and help them understand why that is the case. And that is such a huge difference to make. And I like online communities, it's a perfect example.
Yeah. And online communities are a hard one, right? Because when you think about
Hmm.
before you've made that initial purchase to the community, or imagine you're a stranger with a problem, I don't know, like you haven't made a podcast, you're like joining a community to make podcasts, right?
Hmm.
You're about to hit pay. And before that moment you hit pay, you have two problems that you're using the community to solve. Problem one, I don't know how to make podcasts. Problem two, I don't know people who can help me make podcasts. The second you hit pay and you join that community, you now have access to the knowledge and you now know the people. And so
Hmm.
the value of that community after month one drops drastically because your two problems have just been solved. So
Right.
now the challenge for communities is to figure out, wait, if I want to keep people paying over time, how do I still deliver value on a monthly basis? Because there's such a huge drop in value after you've gotten A, the initial knowledge, not the ongoing knowledge, and then B, the initial access to the community. And that's one other function where customer success comes in, because you can have people do calls and community gatherings, et cetera, et cetera.
And applying this to like a SaaS company, this is where if you're using a piece of software, let's say an email service provider or something, and you're on the basic plan, and that's where we get hit up by the CSMs all the time, where it's like, hey, we want to make sure you're using this to the full extent. Or we notice that instead of having 1,000 contacts, you now have 8,000. There's a next tier that might suit you better, things like that. So that's the same role at a software company, right?
Yep. Yep. And it's the same idea,
Yeah.
right? And so both communities and software, you have, let's call it 3 levels of CSMs or customer success. One is, let's call it custom white glove. That's where it's like one-to-one. Each customer success person depends on the size, but 10 to 30 different clients that they have a point person with, they have to build relationships with, active at a time. That works best if you have a really high ticket, fewer customer base, more money, smaller customers. Then I'm going to go to the other extreme before I talk about the hybrid. The other extreme is the opposite, where you're doing, I don't know, it's $20 a month and you've got hundreds, if not thousands of customers. You just literally can't scale at that amount. It's hard to scale customer success at that amount. And so you do it tech enabled or fully automated, where it's like you have data points that trigger if someone might leave. So as an example, if, I don't know, someone logs in to your SaaS and then they don't log in again for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and that's a critical onboarding moment that will trigger an event that may trigger an auto email or an auto outreach or something like that. And so that's the opposite extreme, where you have way more people at a lower dollar amount. And so you have to automate the process,
Right.
right? The hybrid, which is honestly most communities, is where it's like you can't do one-to-one, but you can do scale. So you can do webinars, you can do one-to-many interactions, you can do
Hmm.
that same data triggering where it's okay, someone hasn't logged in the community in a few weeks, boom, triggers a CSM to reach out. Or everyone who hasn't logged in the community in a few weeks, here's a webinar to have a conversation with. And so there's like things you can do to do that hybrid of at scale, figure out how to keep people for longer, upgrade to the higher tier, et cetera.
Gotcha. Okay. So I want to take a slight left turn here with this and apply this to small businesses, whether they're like small local service providers or they're brick and mortar or they are like a home service type of company, especially starting out when it's maybe one person or up to five people. How does this CSM role apply? Because we see how it applies at the enterprise level, right? Like at the big SaaS companies or in communities for those who are involved in online communities. We see that model. We see how it operates. Or if you haven't noticed it before, now you're going to after listening to
Right.
this. But how, in your opinion, especially having consulted with smaller businesses before, how does this apply for a small business where, in my opinion, I think that's one of the most important things you have to be doing is customer success?
Absolutely. And so let's forget the name customer success for a sec, because take the idea, because the idea is how do you keep customers for longer or get them to buy more things? How do you get them to, two, how do you upsell or get them to buy more expensive things? Three is how do you get your customers to tell more of their friends, right? And the four is how do you get your customers to leave more reviews, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of those things apply, in my opinion, to all businesses. Now, the question is, do we want one specific person running all four things and that's their full-time job? It depends. And so in the agency world, you and I both run an agency, we call that the account manager, right? And there's nuance to it. There's like account manager also has to do some delivery, right? But it's the same thing. Unless you have a dedicated customer success person in the agency world, you have your account manager who's looking for are clients staying longer? Are there opportunities to sell them another service? How do you get reviews? How do you tell them friends, et cetera? And so I think that applies to every business. So as an example, like a lot of people don't think it applies to e-com, let's say, right? Hot take, totally does. So if you think about retention, right? I think what most people think about with retention is recurring revenue. What does that mean? That means that you have a contract that you have to pay this person on a monthly basis for a year. I don't know, depends on your contract, right? Instead of recurring revenue, you can have reoccurring revenue, right? Which is you're not contracted, but the product or service was so good that you buy it very frequently. Think, I don't know, like Coca-Cola, right? There's no recurring revenue. It's not like they made you sign, Brien, you
I'm not
must buy,
subscribed to Coke.
like Brien, you must buy, I don't know, 3 cans of Coke every week, right? No,
Yeah.
but a lot of people do. And why is that? Because they've cracked reoccurring revenue. You know what I mean? And so that's what we do. So we have two. We have one that I focus on recurring and one that I focus on reoccurring. Right? And they're just like different processes, but there's still ways to make more money from the same customer base for longer.
Okay. In practice, what does this look like for a really small company? Because the early days, especially in the early days of a company, it's the owner and maybe some technicians or some helpers, some employees, somebody doing some sort of task work there. And typically the customer success part of the business falls on either the owner or the manager, or it's sadly neglected. So how can, especially those listening out there who may be in the early stages of owning a business or just about to open, I want to make sure we stress how important the success of their customers are, especially when you're starting out, because they're the lifeblood. Like without your customers, you got no money at any level of business. That's true. So how can that role be fulfilled? Like, are there small things that a business owner can do? You mentioned getting reviews. What are the other things a business owner can do to make sure that this gets into their ethos right off the rip?
Yeah. Okay. So let's say you're a small home services business, and I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Okay. There are some that have recurring and some that have reoccurring. What I'm hearing you say is, hey, not every business needs a full-time dedicated person to making sure that you make more money from your customers. Fair. But in that case, somebody has to come up with the processes, right? And most businesses don't have customer success, and that's totally fine. As long as there's a process in place or a system in place to make sure that you're getting more money from your customers, right? Just like you have a system in place for sales. And so what does that mean, right? That means, so for example, you said getting more reviews, right? How do you get more reviews? And so do you have a process in place to get reviews on a consistent basis from your customers? If yes, you're doing customer success, the process. If no, you're not.
Yeah. And that's Hot tip for all you business owners out there, especially small service based, get your 5-star reviews and get them on your Google profile. That's step number one for customer success, no doubt. But I think I don't know about you, but I've had like home service providers where they come in, they do a thing, and they don't bother to upsell me on anything, which I'm one of those people where like, I get mad if you don't try to upsell me because A, I'm trying to see your process and how you do it. And B, I'm trying to judge if you're good at what you do or not. Because if you notice that I don't know if the plumber's here and he fixes the shim sham, but the flim flam's broken and he knows it, but doesn't care to really say anything about it. Then I'm like, hey man, like I would have paid you guys the extra, I don't know, $400 to fix this because you're here and it's broken or whatever, or it needed replacing. So I guess that kind of falls more into the upsell side, maybe not so much retention because I might stay a client anyway, but that's also more on the reoccurring, right? So there's got to be some sort of opportunity recognition. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But it needs to be part of the ethos of the company, right?
Yeah. And so I guess the way to do that would be, it depends on the business, right? So I'm about to speak a little generically for a sec, but there's a different so when you first qualify someone for the sale of your initial service or product, or I guess this is more a service thing, you have certain qualifications that make them a fit to buy your thing, your flim flam, as you said it, right?
The flim flam and the shim sham.
And so as an example, I typically use the acronym BANT, BANT, budget, authority, needs, timing, right? There's a certain scale of each that you need in order to, said a different way. You've got two types of qualifiers. One's a marketing qualified, one's a sales qualified, right? The marketing qualified means, are they the right demographic? Do they have the right needs? Do they have the right psychographic? Whatever you're looking for is the type of person you're looking for, right? Then do they have the budget for it? Do they have the need? Do they have the timing? That qualify process that you do for your initial service is going to be different for the upsell than it is for your initial service, right? They may need more money. They may be a slightly sub-demographic of your initial demographic, right? You probably know the type of people who make a better fit for your upsell than that. And so part of your initial onboarding, your initial process, so when you first qualify them and then you sell them, when you first have those initial conversations about that first service you sold, then you can look at the qualifier and go, okay, now I've got these new qualifiers in my head of the upsell. Maybe it's a bigger business. Maybe it's a certain type of demographic, that's sub-demographic, right? If they meet those sub-qualifiers for the upsell, then it's the upsell early on. So there's a process to re-qualify people and how to offer them the new upsell, which is way easier than the initial sale.
Okay. So I kind of want to bring this back to your business a little bit as well. My question is, how do you hire for this? And it's one thing I want to see under the hood about how you guys specifically hire for CSM positions, but also on the client side, so the business that needs the help, how do you identify what they need for a CSM and how they need it produced?
Yeah, so it usually depends. So we've been doing a lot of communities recently. And I guess if you want to include account managers for agencies, we do that too. But let's just focus on the CSM side. So first off, we need to figure out what's the type of person we're looking for, right? So for example, for a lot of communities, it's the community feel. And so typically they want someone who feels like they're part of a community, right? So for example, if you run a community on a women's group, it's going to be a better fit CSM if they're also involved or could be a member of that community, right? So step one is find someone who's a fit, who's that style and type for the member of the community. Then two is there's a certain skills and experiences we're looking for, right? And so a customer success person differs a little bit from a salesperson, but they do need a salesy background because they're going to be doing upsells. But if you think about sales is just being a therapist. It's just having empathy, understanding the pain of the person you're talking to and being like, I have the solution for a pain.
Tell me where it hurts. Let me tell you about a solution.
Tell me where it hurts. And so basically we look for one is the fit in terms of like cultural fit, which is so important. I think this is the part that most people skip, which is, hey, is this person a cultural fit? One, for your business, but two, for your community, or in this case, your customers. And then two is what skills and experiences we're looking for. And that's going to differ based on what type of what you want to emphasize. And so if you want, I don't know, if you want a customer success person who's going to run more webinars, like group calls, if you have a SaaS and you're like, hey, we're going to do webinars for 100 people once a month, right? You want someone who can speak in that manner. And so we'll test them on that.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's, okay, we don't want to do webinars for customer success, but we want a little more custom one-on-one coaching style. Okay, we need someone who's going to be more of a coach than a public speaker. And so there's different skills and experience we're looking for based on how you want to get more money from your customers.
Okay, got it. Help us understand, especially hiring in Latin America where you guys specialize. How does that work? Do you run into clients, presumably US based, who are fearful about such a customer facing role and using outsourced talent from overseas, or at least not necessarily over the sea, but down on a different continent? How does that work in your business? How does the talent compare? And it kind of help us pop the lid on that.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is, hey, how well do they speak English? What's the accent? Like, how do they, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so the way I like to say it is like, there's a difference between bad English and having an accent. And so the way we do it is we get 2,000 applicants a role, which is insane. We built these distribution channels, which I'm so proud of. We built these distribution channels all through Latin America to get just an insane number of applicants per role. And so first thing we do is ask them, with their application, they must submit a Loom video. So we can listen to their English and make sure they can speak well. If they can't speak well, they don't even pass the first step. But because of that, we have, like, it's such a hack because it's literally the same, like, quality talent. But because they live in such a low cost environment, it's 70% cheaper. So as an example, average customer success person, account manager, salesperson, $5,000 a month, a minimum, $5,000 to $8,000 a month. Here, that same role is going to be $1,500 a month, $2K if they're like really crushing it.
Here as in Latin America.
Here in Latin, I'm actually sorry, I'm physically,
Yeah.
this is Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think the reason it's such a hack is because people just don't know that there is such great talent here, that the language problem isn't a problem if you know how to look for it correctly. I think people have been burned in the past, but they've been burned because they're either looking for it themselves, it's hard to find that talent, or they're working for folks who don't have the distribution to get 2,000 applicants a role.
Right.
And so because of that, like, you can have such a high filter where you're saying, okay, only the people who speak English and have critical thinking and have this charisma and have this experience can make it through that filter.
And this applies perfectly to online communities. Is that kind of your main clientele base, is online communities or like SaaS?
I would say we do a lot of agencies. We do a lot of e-com,
Agencies?
SaaS,
Okay.
and communities. Now, recently, we've actually been starting doing a lot of home services.
Okay.
Yeah, though.
Dude, there's such a need for that in home services. So you talking your roofers, your pavers, your blacktoppers, like a small local service business? Yeah. That's such a huge need. In my business, we work with those companies, and it's there's actually, you and I actually might need to chat because I need help with a couple of my clients. They have front of the house kind of phone issues.
Oh, yeah, we do a lot of that.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Hey, I'm going to book some time in your calendar. But it's recently come to our attention, and it's like, guys, this is one of the most important parts of your business. Small business is not hard. It's pick up the phone, provide a great quote, provide stellar service, and stay in contact with your people. The companies who do that are the best ones. And everybody else is average to below average. It's not that hard. But yeah, so that's cool that a lot of your talent is now heading towards local service businesses. Do you think that is just the trend, the local service industry is kind of catching up and saying, hey, there is talent abroad, and just because it's not somebody from our hometown who sits in the office and does this, doesn't mean that you can't have a ton of success with talent from overseas?
Absolutely. Because imagine you need, in the case where you need a salesperson, you need a customer support person, right? And you need, I don't know, a marketer, right? Let's say. So let's just, for mental math, because I'm not going to do public math, let's say each of those is $5,000 in the US. It's really more, but let's just do the math that way because I don't want to embarrass myself public math, right?
There.
Okay, so you're looking at, I don't know, $15,000 a month in budget for those three folks, right? And depending on what your cash flow looks like, you can either wait until you have an extra $15,000 a month to spend on talent, in the US, or for the exact same quality, hire that today for the cost of one person in Latin
Right.
America. And so I think it's a huge disadvantage to people who just don't understand that the quality is there. And that's why I want to preach it. Because if they've worked with folks who don't have great English, it's because the filtering is bad, right? Because there's
Right.
plenty of people here who speak great English. If we're looking for people who are critical thinkers. We're looking for people we've got designers, we've got email marketers, we've got project managers, we got account managers, etc. And you can essentially hire so much faster because for the price of one person, you get three, and you can finally get your
Right.
time back and use that time to like actually focus on the things that grow the business. And so you make more money. Like it's a huge win-win.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and that's the biggest key, especially speaking to the local service businesses, is buying your time back. And hiring the right people at the right rates to do the task at hand is an incredible way to do it. Imagine that.
Yeah, I'm working right now. So just give you one example. I'm working with a garbage removal company, right? And so he's spending all of his time handling customer support, right? Taking phone calls from people who want their garbage picked up. And like, how much is the time worth? So we can focus on getting new customers. We can focus on improving the offer. You can focus on all these things that will really move the needle on the business rather than handle logistics of what time are they going to pick up the trash, or, oh, you missed me today. You didn't pick up my trash. And so basically, like, if you think about what the business owner's job is to basically fire yourself from the lower value tasks so you can start slowly focusing more and more of your time on the high value tasks, and boom, you've got a business that you've got your time back and you make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so we're helping him get a customer support person, put them in the business so that they can handle all their customer support calls.
What are some of the tasks that we could just knock these out real quick use that garbage business as an example of the type of talent that you can provide? So customer service, it sounds like even a business like this could use a customer success manager, or maybe even the customer service manager. This is part of their job, is calling on existing clients and making sure that they're stoked with their service. And if that's the case, would you mind leaving us a 5-star review? What are all the little positions in a local service business that could use overseas talent?
All the positions, tough one because a lot. If you think about, let's just go to,
Give me the top 4 or 5.
yeah, for sure. Like what we do, I'll give you what we do. So we do a lot of project managers. We do a ton in marketing. So marketing, think people to handle your email marketing for you, handle your social media
Okay.
marketing, right? Both creating social media and managing social media, right? We'll also do outbound. So think setters, people who book calls, closers who close calls, but that depends. Like a lot of home service folks don't need that level of sophistication when it comes to sales, right? They don't need like outbound
Right.
setters. They're going to be more local. Like it's more of a order taker than it is a traditional
Right.
salesperson, right? So it depends on the
Mm.
sophistication of the offer, like how hard it is to sell. But we'll do graphic designers, we'll do project managers is a big one because so many tasks that you need to do, and just to track them and figure out, like, just get all that stuff out of your mind and onto someone else managing all those projects way easier.
Yep.
What else in that perspective? Yeah, salespeople, customer support, etc.
What about like an EA, executive assistant, or like someone to handle the admin? Because I know that's a huge thing for a lot of business owners, is they're locked in their inbox and or on the phone. So we talked about the phone support, but is that a good position to outsource as well?
We do a lot of EAs. Yeah, a lot of executives,
Yeah.
like people they'll manage their calendar, they'll manage even your personal life, right? Like travel schedules and I don't know, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's been very helpful. We do a lot of those as well.
Okay.
What are you seeing as
Yeah,
well?
no, it's at my clients, the biggest issues are admin, either answering the phone or handling that customer success. I'm gonna blend. I know we define the difference between customer service and customer success, but if you blend them in a smaller business where that person could probably still handle both assets, where when they're not handling a customer service issue, or proactive fixing of something in customer service, they could be handling proactive customer success. They're reaching out to make sure people are happy with service, or if it can depend on the industry and the actual service, but reaching out and be like, hey, we serviced your water softener 6 months ago, and we realized it's probably time for a salt delivery. We don't have you on our schedule for salt delivery, but we have a deal going. Like, just working on adding services, especially the sticky ones. If I used water softening as an example, but
Yeah.
their sticky service is salt delivery. So I think someone, maybe a hybrid CSM where it's service/success. I don't know. Do you think that's a thing?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about what customer success is, it's just making money from your current customer base, right?
Right.
And so whether we give it the official title of customer success doesn't really matter. It's just we need somebody who is looking at your customer base and going, how do we make sure they stay longer? How do we make sure they buy
Yeah.
more things? How do we make sure they leave reviews? How to make sure they tell their friends about us? If
Yeah.
nobody's doing that, we're losing a huge opportunity. You don't have to call it customer
Yep.
success. It doesn't have to be its own role, but somebody's got to be making sure that you're getting reviews, you're referring your friends, you're making more money from your current customers.
How about a customer happiness manager?
I
Because I
like
think
that.
that is the first thing that gets dropped is, okay, we took the call, we did the service, customer's happy, but then it ends there, right? Maybe if you're working with us, you have a newsletter, but that's where you have the perfect opportunity, especially if it's a recurring business. Have somebody who, let's say you have 500 clients on your roster. This person's job every, I don't know, call it 5 hours a week is to do proactive outreach to the existing client base. And whether that's sending a thank you note or sending a $10 coffee gift card, just thanks for being a customer of ours for the last year. When renewals come up, doing these small things that go an extra mile that nobody else does, right? Only the best companies do this type of stuff.
Yeah.
But especially if we're using a local service business, like blow somebody away, right? Surprise and delight. So maybe I think that's a cool position I'd like to see filled at these businesses.
Yeah. Like there's levels to this, right?
Oh, there's so many.
There's so many levels to this. But okay, let's say you have a business that doesn't have recurring revenue, but has reoccurring revenue, right? You get one time placement, right? Or one time, that was our first business, which we still have that offer, which is like the headhunting fee that you pay us just to search for the town, right?
Right.
So we had to think a lot about, okay, if we're not getting recurring revenue from, so we do two now. I think I mentioned this early at the beginning. You pay us upfront for the placement or for the search, right? And then the other one is you rent from us, right? You pay us monthly and you get access to our talent and we'll train them and all that kind of stuff, right? And so one's recurring, one's reoccurring. And so for recurring, that was our first offer. We put a lot of thought into how do we actually make sure that our happiest customers come back and buy more, because it happened a ton. And so what we did, level one, was, okay, we use a task management tool called Asana, right? Level one was our account managers for every person got a ding. At first it was once a month, then it was every 3 months, right? Just check in and said, hey, I need you to email the client and just check in. Do they need anything, right? That so easy, so simple. And a lot of times people, oh, wait, shoot. Yeah, I do need something. And like that just turned into a sale. It was so easy, right? That's level one. Level two is you automate that stuff, right? So we have a CRM. In our CRM, you can set up automated email sequences so that instead of messaging your project manager, your account manager, or customer service, it just auto sends from whatever tool, your CRM, your email, campaigns, whatever, and just a check-in. Hey, it's Brian. Want to check in? How you guys doing? How's the talent place for you? Looking good? And a bunch of people reply and be like, oh shoot, yeah, it was great. I actually need this other person now too. I need this other service too.
Yep. Jog the memory, because there's so many times where customers need things and it's maybe not an immediate need, but they're like, hey, that'd be nice if I'd get that. And it really just takes a little prod in the butt to get them to say yes to it. And a simple email can do that, right? Because
Absolutely.
people like to act in the moment, especially business owners. They're like, this is on the brain. I need this. But the minute somebody emails me and says, hey, you might need this, it gives you like permission to say yes and reach out and say, yeah, I do need this. You know why? Because you made it super easy for me to get it from you. And this little email was the conduit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It just makes it so
perfect.
easy. And you don't need a dedicated customer success person to send email reminders.
There you go.
Enabled. So
Enabled,
easy.
right? Yeah. Yeah. I love it, man. Awesome. We're bumping up against time. I know you're a busy man, so I don't want to keep you all day. This has been an awesome conversation on how to make more money from the people who already pay you. So I want to thank you for your time and your knowledge here, Brian. And also, I want to make sure that everybody out there listening that they check you out on your socials, give us your handle there. And then I want to make sure they hop on your newsletter as well. So tell us how everybody can find you and best way to get in contact.
Sure. Yeah. My socials are Brian F. O'Connor. My email is Brien at TalentHQ.co. And my newsletter is outliergrowth.com. And so we send more marketing tips and tips on how to run your business, how to hire every Thursday.
Yeah, I love it. Guys, it's a great newsletter, so make sure you hop on that at a minimum, but also give him a follow across your socials there and send him an email if you need to talk to the man, the legend himself, Brien O'Connor.
Happy to chat.
All right. Awesome, man. Thanks again for coming back to join us today. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. No, great chatting.